Shalom, let's bring up today's question. I recall once, a number of years ago, I was walking Harav Yaakov Peretz, my rabbi, out of yeshiva, and to his bus right outside of the old city of Jerusalem. And we're walking through a neighborhood right before the gate called Shaar Zion Gate, and there's a huge wall made by different conquerors of Jerusalem. And he taps on the wall and says, "Do you know what this generation is? This is the kind of generation where this wall, I have to bring proof that it's a wall, because there are other people that are calling it a bol, a ke'ara, but I have to bring a proof that it's a kir." We live in a very strange generation. Today in the Jewish world, what was done always by our HaShamayim generation after generation, today is being challenged not by those outside of the Jewish fold, but actually by those inside of the Jewish community trying to become holier than thou, better than thou, greater than the generations that came before us, and the Chachamim that led them. Chazal, our rabbis tell us in Masechet Sanhedrin, Minayin shekol hamosif gorea. How do we know that anyone who adds to the Torah is actually taking away from the Torah? It's one of the biblical prohibitions. You cannot add and you cannot take away. How do we know, though, that it's really a bad thing to do more? We live in a generation where doing more is what Judaism is all about. And our rabbis bring up the story of Adam HaRishon, the first man in the Garden of Eden, who tells his wife, "Do not touch the tree and do not eat from it." Because he figures, listen, Hashem only told me not to eat from the tree. But if I tell her don't even touch the tree, then she definitely won't eat from the tree. And, as the story goes, Chava comes close to the tree, and the snake pushes her up against the tree and tells her, "You see, you touched the tree and nothing happened to you. So why are you scared of eating from the tree? Nothing will happen to you as well." We have to add fences to the Torah. That's what our rabbis told us. But there are rules, there are limits, there are ways in which we can and cannot add fences to the Torah. Many of the commentaries surrounding this story in the Ein Yaakov tell us that there are mitzvot which simply do not require any fences, either because we can understand them the way they are, or because of the severity of those mitzvot, that they don't need any extra limitations to them. Or, as one of the commentaries suggests, that when you teach Torah, you must teach what is actual Torah and what is just policy, what is protocol, because those two things are not the same. Policy and protocol are not divine. Those are man-made innovations, and we must know when educating our children, in our families, in our communities, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu ask from us? What did the Chachamim, our rabbis, ask from us? What were the different communities? What were the customs that they added to this? And which of these things are simply not even part of the Jewish faith? When we teach things that way, then nobody will be pushed up against the tree and be fooled, because they'll know, I was not commanded not to touch this tree. I was just commanded not to eat from this tree. You know, we used to have Talmidei Chachamim, Torah scholars in the Jewish community. And today we have many, Baruch Hashem, many Talmidei Chachamim. But there is a trend among Torah scholars that in matters of practical halakha, they do not know. They simply are not aware. They simply refuse to understand and to learn the halachot as they are written in the Mishnah, in the Talmud, in the Rambam, in the Shulchan Aruch. You know, there are many companies in the world that start off with a brilliant person who is really good at doing what they do, but then it becomes too big for them. So they start to outsource. They hire people that can do things for them without them having to do it. For example, today you'll walk into a doctor's office, and it used to be that every question, the one who signed you in, the one that took you to the bank, it was a doctor. But today, you already have all kinds of people that are not doctors. They simply know, oh, if the symptoms are just simple symptoms, so we'll pop them a pill, we'll send a text message to the doctor that they should send something to the pharmacy for them. And most times, people don't even meet the doctor. You have this in many other professions. There are websites today. You used to have to go to an attorney, to a lawyer, to write a will, to figure out a contract, to get legal advice, to file for a logo. Today, what many attorneys have realized is their time is expensive. And therefore, it's much better to get people who are not actually lawyers, but they know how to do the work that's very simple, the busy work, filing papers, putting in names, which addresses to mail them to. And so you go to file for a contract, you go to check over a will. Oftentimes, it's not even a lawyer who checks through this, but it's just someone who knows this is okay, that's not okay, this is a problem, that's not a problem. we've done the same thing in Torah. We used to have Talmidei Chachamim that you would come and ask them a question, and kol datot halacha ptuchot ivnehem. All the gates of halacha were open in front of them. All the rabbis, all the sages, all the commentaries. But today, we live in a Judaism of, well, if it's that symbol, it's okay. And if it's that circle, it's not okay. And if it's a triangle, and if it's a square, and if it's a star, and if it's an upside down chaf, and a K, depends what the kosher symbol is going to be. I'm not an expert in halakha. I'm simply an expert in kosher symbols. One must cry over such a Judaism. One must mourn over the state of affairs of the Jewish Union. That's halakha. I know how to determine kashrut based on little letters on packages, but not on halachot. We've lost a generation. My grandmother, she knew how to salt meat. My grandfather knew how to slaughter a cow. My other grandmother used to know how to bake matzot, and she baked matzot every single day of Pesach. Today, we don't know how to bake matzot. We don't know how to slaughter a cow. We don't even know how to salt the cow if someone else slaughtered it for us. All we know how to do is check the packaging for a little symbol to find out which symbol is okay and which symbol is not okay. The da'at, the knowledge of our generation, has simply dwindled down into this little trickle of faith in numbers and letters and shapes. But there's something else here. And that is that in these kashruyot, in these kosher symbols, there are all kinds of politics, and all kinds of wars, and all kinds of this group doesn't like that group, which doesn't like the next group. But hey, we're all just trying to be strict. We're trying to avoid issues, so we don't want to deal with problems. We don't want to deal with factories that have certain kinds of people in them. We don't want to run one product on the line of another product. So what do? We just separate everything. We just do our own runs. We don't deal with halakha. We simply create our own little bubble. And then we go around telling everyone else, you see that symbol? You see that kosher symbol? You see that rabbi? You can't rely on them. And so here we just made a big mistake. By trying to be strict in something which we were not obligated, we ended up really being lenient and making mistakes in things which we are obligated in. How does keeping kashrut allow us to speak lashon hara about somebody else? How does our desire to eat food that is better, how is our desire to put things in our mouth that are proper, allow us now the permission to speak all kinds of things outside of our mouth that are not proper? Where's the kosher symbol on my speech, on my opinions, on the feelings I have towards Jews who don't observe kashrut the way I do? In his book, Ochot Harav V'Kehillat, and I mentioned this in my book, Yehi Shalom, in English, Rabbi Yaakov Peretz tells us of all the problems that happen from trying to be too strict and kasher. You see, what's the big deal? So we're just particular, we're just special, we just avoid all problems. Could anything wrong actually happen from that? And the answer is very simple. By being strict in kashrut, you probably will never end up violating the laws of kashrut. That's for sure. Because if you have one house for meat, and one house for milk, and one house for parev, and if you have one refrigerator for milk, and one for meat, and one for parev, then you have one smoke detector for meat, and one smoke detector for milk, you're probably never going to have a problem with kashrut. That's true. But what about the other problems? What about the speaking lashon hara about somebody else? What about the fact that I'm no longer able to host certain people in my home because they won't eat the food that I eat, and that the Shulchan Aruch ate, and that the Rambam ate, and that Moshe Rabbeinu ate? What about the fact that now we start suspecting our community members, our friends, our children's classmates? What about those things? What about the basic humanity of going to someone else's house and drinking a glass of tea, of having a coffee with them, of sitting down for some cakes and cookies and fruits? What about that? Why do I have to go to someone's house where they tell me that when the rabbi comes to collect his monthly donation, he doesn't eat the orange that they give him out of a plate, but he puts it on the palm of his hand, so God forbid the orange shouldn't touch the plate? Where are the halachot of kashrut? Where are the Torah scholars that know the laws of 1 and 60, that knows the law of mixing in meat and milk and kosher and not kosher? Where are the Talmidei Chachamim? My friends, don't fall into that trap. Don't allow our generation to be brought down to little numbers and letters. Allow yourself, your family, your children, the opportunity to learn Torah the way it was meant to learn, with a broad mind, with an open heart, to be able to walk anywhere in the world and to say, this is kasher, this is not kasher, not because of a number or a letter, but because I know halakha, because I know Torah, because the Shulchan Aruch pulsates in my veins. That's what I wish to see from our generation. As it says in the famous song, the famous piyut, Li'imei Chizkiyahu nichsafti. I yearn for the days of King Hezekiah, who in his generation, even the smallest child knew the laws of kashrut, knew the laws of what is permitted and what is prohibited. But not a generation in which the greatest adults and the greatest Torah scholars, they study halakha like little children. Let's reverse that tide. Let's go back to the days of Chizkiyahu. And as our rabbis tell us, that Chizkiyahu could have been the King Messiah. He could have been the Melech HaMashiach. By observing Torah properly, let's pray, let's hope, and let's yearn for that day where the Mashiach will come and redeem us and take us back to a world. Umala'ah ha'aretz, may the world be filled of de'at Adonai, of knowledge of Hashem. That should happen to us very soon. Have a beautiful day.